Welcome, everybody,
Hey.
to the Global Troop Town Hall. And we have our topic tonight is girls in the Boy Scouts. I'm going to give a shout out, thank you to Linvilla Orchards out at 137 West Knowlton Road in Media, PA. They've given us apple cider and apple cider donuts for our snack tonight. So thank you, Linvilla Orchards. And we have our co-host here, who is Randy the Man Hardy.
Hi, everyone.
Fantastic. Oh, we got to get your head's a little cut off there, so we'll adjust our camera. Awesome. And then we also have with us Ann and Steve.
Ta-da! Hello.
And I don't have any of the troops. We had some technical difficulties tonight, so I didn't get all the technical things resolved. So anyway,
That makes it an interview question.
we also anticipate some call-in guests tonight from the Girl Scouts, local Girl Scout leaders. So I'm hoping that they have connected and we'll be able to dial in. I've given you the dial-in number through email, so you should be able to use that. And if we say now's the time to call in and you don't call in, then I'll put the number up on screen, so in case you've forgotten it or remembered. So anyway, that said, let's get right into the heart of the matter. I don't know a whole lot about this subject at the moment, and I think Steve probably knows the most out of the four of us at the moment. So I'm going to kick it over to you and tell us, what's this whole thing about proposed girls in the Boy Scouts?
Well, it's something that's been discussed for quite a while. There have, especially at the Cub Scout level, because Cub Scout is truly a family-oriented group. The girls, the sisters, have always participated in the activities. They've always gone on camping trips with their brothers, their parents. It's a mother, father, parent, guardian, entire family event. Girls have participated in the other activities like the Pinewood Derbies. They've, had names such as, Not Scouts. Or,
I know the story about that. So,
or tag-alongs. And so for many years, the girls, through their parents, have petitioned the national organization to include girls in scouting. And for just up until recently, there has been no movement. However, in order to serve the entire family, which is the goal now, the National Board did approve girls joining scouting, starting with Cub Scouts. I think another thing that should be mentioned is that membership has really been an issue with scouting, and that is the declining membership in Boy Scouts. And it's possible that the National Board considered that one way to maybe stem the decline would be to add the girls in Cub Scouts and then into Boy Scouts. 1973 was when the Boy Scouts reached their all-time max of 4,800,000 boys. But in the 44 years since then, we've lost 53% of our membership. Year-end last year, 2017, we were down to 2,257,000 boys. So the hope is that with...
Well, wait a minute. Is that boys or is that youth altogether, including the girls who are in the venturing program and exploring? And
That's
stuff
all registered scouts.
all registered youth, okay.
like that?
Yeah, so actually we did have some girls in scouting. In 1969, girls were made eligible to join the venturing and exploring programs in scouting, but not the traditional Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. We've also had girls in some of the other programs, such as Sea Scouts and now the STEM Scouts.
So was that sort of a test, a trial period, a trial something?
Well, I think it was still, Sea Scouts is structured similar to venturing in that girls can start at age 14 and stay in until 21, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So it's that age group, but outside of the traditional Boy Scouting. career-oriented or specific activity. Sea Scouts is very thematic in how they do things. So,
And if we look at scouting around the world, we see that there are 170 countries that belong to the World Scouting Organization, and there's only 12 countries that do not have girls in scouting. So the National Board duly considered the proposal to have girls join scouting. They did some research, and they went about it the right way. They asked families that were not yet involved in scouting. They did surveys, and the results that came back were really, really phenomenal. The results were that 90% of the parents expressed interest in their daughters joining Cub Scouts, and these are families that did not have anyone in scouting yet.
Right.
And in Boy Scouts, it was 87%. Those are very significant numbers. And as a result, in October of 2017, the National Board voted unanimously to accept girls in scouting. And when you consider the makeup of the National Board, it's basically old white guys. And for them to come to this conclusion unanimously was really startling. I think that truly they wanted to serve the entire family. They wanted one-stop shopping for the parents, just to be able to drop their children off at one location.
wait a minute. We're not dropping anybody off.
It's not.
Come and spend the time helping to raise each other's children at one location at one time.
You mean it's not the babysitters?
No.
Yeah.
Right. So, that said, there's a lot of discussion out there, and there's a lot of opinion. And I think a lot of people are coming from a point of having no information.
Yeah.
They've got,
That's probably true.
Because when I think about girls in the Scouts, I'm amenable to that decision. I do have some worries. I do have some concerns. And my biggest concern is boys doing stupid things. Deciding that they're going to show off and climb up a tree 30 feet and jump from limb to limb in order to impress a girl.
And that's different from high school in what way?
Well, it's different in trees. Exactly.
But boys doing questionable things to figure out how to be a man.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
Most girls are used to it.
So
whatever.
from my perspective, with being such a litigious country at the moment, that really has to put the leaders on high alert, sort of all the time.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that's really what my concern would be. I think it's very manageable. I think we'll need more volunteers. We'll need more leaders because our attention can't be divided amongst so many Scouts.
Well, one of the things that the proposal makes significantly different from what the other countries that I've observed. The structure is supposed to be that let's just take the Cubs. That the girls who join the Cub Scout pack are in their own den. And that necessitates more leaders. So the idea is that parents who want to have their kids in that program, they got to step up and say, well, I'll run the girl den and you guys run the boy den. A lot of the activities and the equipment and the supplies and the resources could all be the same, all be shared, and they're all in the same they're all in the same pack.
Right.
But the girls gather together in their own den.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I really have, with experience from the pack that we came from, Pack 240, we had the Cub Scouts and the not Scouts.
Right.
And by the way, just so you know, this is sort of a humorous joke in the sense that one of the leaders went to district and said, can we have the girls do all the same activities? And the district leader said yes, but you have to make sure that the girls know that they are not scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came back to the pack and said, I've got good news. You are all KNOT scouts.
Right.
So that was awesome.
Now, the structure of this at the Boy Scout level, which is where I'm doing my work because I'm with a Boy Scout troop, is a little bit trickier, I think, because it sounds as though the idea is to have a separate sort of parallel troop with the girls. So not like a separate girl patrol, but a separate girl troop.
Yeah.
That would require some crossover, I guess, in leaders, but it would require more leadership.
Right.
The chartered organization rep could be the same person and all of that, but
What do you do if you don't get enough girls for a whole troop?
well, that's the interesting part of it.
I mean,
You have to have-
patrols are generally 6 to 8 scouts.
well, you have to have five registered youth to have a troop, right? And 3 registered adults.
Well, I think 4 now
4.
for the
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have troops, since you're 17, 19,
Yeah.
you'd have 17, 20?
I don't know. That's the thing.
So
you know?
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to
To
be a
me-
separate troop number. You're
Maybe it
able
will
to
be
share.
1917. Yeah.
You're able to share a committee,
Yeah.
but you have to have separate leaders.
Leaders, right.
You can share your meeting space. You can go on trips at the same time, the same location, but you'll have to then have your appropriate 2 deep leadership. And if you're sharing a cabin, it must be appropriately partitioned off for the boys on one side, the girls.
What's the
on
difference
other.
between that and just having 2 separate troops? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. But
Well, I think
we
the
won't know
reason-
how it works until we get a significant number of girls at the over 11 age group. So
Back in the 1990s, there were several countries that went completely co-ed with their boys and girls at the upper age limit of Boy Scouts. And the results were kind of startling. The addition of the girls caused a 30% increase, net increase, in the number of scouts. But what happened is they lost 50% of their boys. So the BSA has said that we're not going to be co-ed. They're going to be separate units at the Boy Scout level, at the upper level. And this way, the hope is that they won't have the loss in the boys.
okay.
you know, one of the things that really surprised me when we were having the conversations about you know, how people would feel about this. You know, they would call the Boy Scouts would call these meetings and say, "Hey, listen, while we're here, let's have a sort of a community town hall thing about this." The really enthusiastic really enthusiastic support that was expressed by male leaders, most of whom were actively, you know, dads of girls, was really heartening. I mean, I was expecting people to say, "Well, no, tradition, no, boys have to be able to, you know,
safe environment,
all
blah, blah,
that kind of stuff." And dads were standing up all over the place saying, "I only wish my daughter could participate with me and my son in this program. I wish my daughter had an opportunity to do these things."
Right.
Now, the flip side of that is always, you can't go very far without somebody saying, "What about Girl Scouts?" And that's where we really need somebody from Girl Scouting to weigh in on, you know, what are the things that are
What
offered.
a nice segue.
Yeah, somebody call, please.
Yeah, we've got 2 potential Girl Scout leaders who said they might be able to call in tonight. So if either of you Girl Scout leaders are listening, I'll go ahead and put the number up on the screen. If you want to give us a call and let us know your viewpoint. In the meantime, we'll continue chatting.
I just realized something. I'm the only one in this forum who was ever a Girl Scout.
I think you're correct. And do you remember at the 2017 National Jamboree,
Yeah.
the young woman, the explorer, who spoke about why girls should be...
It wasn't the Jamboree, it was the national meeting. Hey!
you
are
got a
correct.
caller.
It was a national
Fantastic.
meeting.
And she was fabulous.
Yeah.
All right. So, thanks for dialing into the Global Truth Town Hall. Give me your first name and where you're calling from, please.
This is Laurel.
Hey, Laurel. How you doing?
Hey, Laurel.
How are you?
Good. So, tell us, what do you think?
I don't get it.
Okay.
I think that the Girl Scout program, there's value in a girl program and a boy program.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Boy Scout program is there for a reason, to raise men. And I think the Girl Scout program is there for a reason, to empower our girls. And I find it disappointing. I think that the Boy Scouts, step one, telling me that they're not about the girls is they didn't change the name to Scouts. You might be calling it Scouts, but they're still calling it Boy Scouts. And it's not, they're letting the girls into the Boy Scouts. They're not changing it to Scouts. And I think that it needs, there is so much value in these programs that muddying the waters is, I don't think it's good for the kids. I've been a leader for 15 years. I see the value of an all-girl program. I see the value of an all-boy program. And I respect both. And I think they both had their place. My father was a leader for 30 years. He's buried in his uniform.
Excellent. Laurel, I've been quiet and I hear what you're saying. And I don't think any of us want the Girl Scouts to go away. So, and I appreciate that you take pride in the Girl Scouts. And they're a great organization as well. But I'm going to touch on what Steve was saying earlier. And actually, I didn't know the exact date, but 1969, you said, is when girls were first allowed to join venture crews. So, Laura, we've had girls in Boy Scouts since 1969. We haven't been actively recruiting them. They actively want to join, and they want the opportunities that, and I'll call it scouting right now, because I believe that's what we need to do. We need to change it. We're just giving them the opportunity. They're coming to us, not us coming to them. It's been going on for that long.
I totally understand. My daughter was an explorer.
Okay.
She was a Boeing Career Explorer Scout.
Great.
She's a Gold Award Girl Scout. I see the value in those career programs. I run the STEM programs for Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania, the Robotics Patrol. And I especially value a separate program for women and men when it comes to STEM. I see the value of these things, and I do get why people who have never had their kids in scouting are going to come to you and say, yes, I want a one-stop shop. I get it. If I'd never done it, I would be all on board too, to get my son and my daughter into the same place and be able to go to one spot. I get that. But I also have a much
And we get that.
understanding.
We get that we don't want Girl Scouts to go away either. That there are girls that want to be surrounded by girls, and we don't want that to go away either. We don't want that opportunity, and we certainly don't want it to extinguish the Girl Scouts. So,
Well, I'm not sure that the whole Boy Scout organization feels that way. I think they want to be the one-stop shop.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not speaking for the entire Boy Scout organization.
By the way, we're not speaking for the
Yeah.
Boy Scouts on an official level at all.
No.
So
let's make that clear. Yeah, we're just
we're leaders.
we're leaders.
Volunteers.
Yes,
We're not professionals.
unpaid volunteers,
Yeah.
severely underpaid.
Now, I do have one question, and this is something because I've talked to a lot of people before the show about this, and I've heard a number of times that they've said, well, you know, we offer this great outdoor program, and a lot of the girls want to do things in the outdoors. They want to do the treetop adventures and the canoeing and things like that, and the Girl Scouts, I've heard, are worried about the Boy Scouts siphoning off a large number of their girls. And so then the argument becomes, or I should say the discussion, I don't want to say argument, the discussion then becomes, well, if the Boy Scouts were actually to siphon off the girls, doesn't that mean that the Girl Scouts need to up their game as far as outdoor activities are concerned? Because that's what I hear is the reason that they'd be coming.
Sure.
But there are some Girl Scout troops that do the kind of adventures that the girls like.
Exactly.
There was one in spring.
Girl Scouts is very much based on the girls' interests, and there are Girl Scout troops that are all about the camp and the adventure, and then there are Girl Scout troops who are not.
Yeah.
And it really is what you want to be. Do the Boy Scouts have the PR market cornered on that they know how to do outdoors? Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, but you guys got
no
cookies.
one's going to say that. First come to mind, if you're going to compare the two and say who's got outdoor nailed, people are going to say, oh yeah, the Boy Scouts know how to do that. But the Girl Scouts know how to do it too.
Yeah.
You go to a local Girl Scout camp, they got high ropes, they got, climb the walls, they've got everything you'd want to do in outdoor adventure is available for girls too.
Right. It's just
Do they
finding
need
the right.
probably to work on that? Yes, but they also just came out with brand new outdoor programs. They're adding outdoor programs. So I think the Girl Scouts are going to try and give the Boy Scouts a run for their money on some of this stuff.
That's awesome.
We hope so. But unfortunately, there's not enough Girl Scout troops that do the activities, the adventure, the outdoor stuff. So, maybe we'll see.
It is something we're challenged with. I'm a service unit manager. I've got 20 troops under my group, and the number that are heavily outdoor, very few.
Well, maybe this will challenge the Girl Scouts to get a more active outdoor program.
But let me just jump in here. It's not just about outdoor program. What I would like to know, and Laurel, you're in a perfect position to help explain this, is what are the things that are different about Girl Scouting and Boy Scouting? Because a lot of people are arguing, and I'll use that term, a lot of people are arguing from a position of knowing a lot about one program but not a lot about the other. And even though I was a Girl Scout, I don't know what Girl Scouts today are doing. And, I was looking at the list of badges for senior scouts. And there's some really fantastic opportunities, but this was all news to me. So, a lot of the things that are available for the Girl Scouts are not available in Boy Scouting. And I'd like to hear more about if we had a family sitting in front of us saying, we've got a girl, just a girl, not a girl and her brother, and we have a possibility of her joining Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts. What's she going to get when
What's the
she
criteria,
joins
right?
when she joins Girl Scouting? Because families want to know this. I mean, what will be your elevator speech for Girl Scouting?
I tell people that Girl Scouts is about truly creating girls of courage, confidence, and character, and we are about leadership. And it not necessarily so much anymore about skills, but about girls taking charge of themselves and what they can do, and being leaders in our community and making change in community. Very much different from what I see in the Boy Scout program. My brothers are active leaders in Boy Scout troops. Their sons are Eagles. So I see both programs. And the boys are much more skill-based, very strongly skill-based. The girls, it's a softer skill set. The skill set is leadership. The girls are running these troops. The girls are making decisions. And maybe some troops aren't outdoors and some girls want to do that, but it's the girls leading it, and it's all about the girls. And those are the skills that our women need to take on this world.
Right, empowerment skills.
They haven't had available to them, which is community leadership, being strong public speakers, things like that. It's a different focus, completely different focus. You talked about, I'm sorry I'm being wordy here, but you talked about, families going to camp together. my big drive with my brownies and my junior scouts is going to camp without their family.
Uh-huh.
Going to camp independently with just their leader and being able to handle themselves and being able to pack their own bag and carry their own gear and get themselves set up. And I don't do anything. They plan it, they direct it, because they need those skills. That's what Girl Scouts is about.
Yeah. All right.
I recently heard a young lady that had just joined Cub Scouts. Cub Scouts for Girls, by the way, started just in February, so we're only a couple of months into it. And she was, very... the point she made was that she was going to stay in Girl Scouts in addition to having joined Cub Scouts. So she was going to do both. And I'm hearing more and more of that.
It's like soccer and scouts, or sports and scouts.
I will. That reminds me of the adventure crew that I was an advisor for, who went to Philmont, and when they were putting together that venture crew, the girls who joined that effort basically were Girl Scouts, and they were well on their way to earning their gold award, and they were extremely well prepared for that adventure. But Philmont was like a big deal because their brothers or whatever had gone to Philmont, and they were excited to be able to do something that was that high adventure and that strenuous, but they didn't have any trouble keeping up with everybody else because they were the gung-ho type of girl. And some girls wouldn't want to do that, but if they do, we'd like them to have the opportunity.
It's interesting because you had said earlier that the way it's going to be designed is it'll be separate troops, a girls'
basically.
troop and a boys' troop, and to me
I'm a little skittish about that. I don't know about
to me, if you need all that extra leadership, it's almost, especially if the Girl Scouts up the game on their outdoor skills. What's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's not a lot of difference.
Resources.
From what Laurel's telling me, and Laurel, we're a boy-led troop. That's maybe
Same as you have.
Same as you have. Maybe not the example that every troop is, because I can't speak for every troop. I've only been back into scouting for 3 years since my son joined, and had been out of it since I was a teenager, which was a few years. We won't mention how many. So I'm getting up to speed with everything all over again. But same, we're all about building character in these young men and young women as well in the Girl Scouts, and they lead by themselves. They pick the trips that they want to go on. We're just the Uber drivers.
Yeah.
Right.
We're there for insurance
Agreed.
reasons.
I really think that there is value in men developing in the Boy Scouts, and I think that the Girl Scouts developing girls. I see the difference. I run an all-girls STEM program, and I run a co-ed STEM program, and I can tell you how the girls run in their independent program, and I can tell you how they run when the boys are present. And there's value.
Yeah, that's a critical age too. I'm a computer teacher, so I understand that that having girls be on their own in something like math and science, and not compared to the boys or whatever, seems to be a theme that comes up a lot in STEM, particularly in the middle school to high school age.
If another question I have though is, if you look at it from a capitalist sort of perspective, isn't a little competition a good thing?
A little competition is a good thing, but it
Is
would
this a
be.
little competition?
I don't know if this is a little
I
competition.
wouldn't call it competition.
We have to be careful though to continue to respect each other's programs so that this doesn't turn into some sort of a slugfest.
Right.
With
I
people
don't disagree with
slinging
that.
a lot of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't want
Yeah.
these decisions to be made on Facebook comments.
Right.
Because people are just
And
not
maybe,
nice.
the society's changed, but I mean, when they broke up AT&T, it became AT&T and Verizon and all these others, Granted, it was a massive headache, and we all pay higher bills anyway.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more competition, and you get to choose where you want to go. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. I'm asking the question.
So what if instead of us saying, oh, well, maybe the Girl Scouts will up their game, as if what Boy Scouts do is the norm by which activities are measured and leadership is measured and advancement and all that. If we can be clear about what the BSA offers and what the GSUSA offers, then people can make an informed choice rather than it being an either or a disloyalty thing. I'll tell you that the discussion in both the Cub Scout Pack that is sponsored by our chartered organization and the Boy Scout troop, the parents have expressed in both of those that they, at this point, would like to remain an all-boy organization, which is like, oh man, I want some of those cool sisters to join. But the committee has said, yeah, we're happy with it being just boys.
Is that the way it's going to work? It's going to be the charter organization.
Charter organization makes the call.
Makes the call.
They
Okay.
decide. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you think your committee would maybe someday go for a boy troop and
a girl troop? Yeah, if we thought we could get the leadership, probably. But yeah, they're concerned about making sure that their boys have a boy-led place to grow into manhood. But then they don't have a problem with me, so I don't get it. Like,
I don't get why they don't have a problem with
My
you
husband
either.
is a Girl Scout leader.
Her husband's a Boy Scout leader.
okay, yeah.
My husband is a Girl Scout leader.
Okay.
He leads the Girl Scout troop, the STEM troop, and has for 6 years. I don't think that co-ed leadership is a problem as long as it's properly controlled.
Yeah, right.
And Laurel, if I could add one more thing. I don't have any girls. I have one son, but I have two nieces. And they're both at Penn. One's a junior, one's a freshman. They are leaders in their own right and very empowered girls. One is pre-law and one is pre-med. And they could care less about the outdoors.
Yeah, how about that? Right?
They think their Uncle Randy's crazy for going out into the woods and sleeping and rock climbing and so forth. But they respect that I like that, and I respect that they don't like that. And so, but they were never Girl Scouts. It just wasn't. It wasn't something I think my sister-in-law was into. And my brother certainly was in the Boy Scouts when I was younger. He hated the outdoors. Still does hate the outdoors. So it's not their bag. But I get the value in what you're saying, in having the separate girls and the leadership. So we're not in disagreement. None of us are here. We're just, it is what it is. They're allowing them to join. They've joined since 1969. We're just having a conversation here, trying to figure out
I do think there's
what
a
the
little
answer
difference
is.
with we're talking about the since 1969. Those were programs for kids who were at the high school age,
Right.
Yeah.
who've gotten through that critical 4th through 8th grade period.
Good point.
Let
Good
me
point.
tell you, that's the period where they need to develop their self-esteem, and the separate program is the most valuable. I think that's the problem age, and that's why they're not looking to put girls in the Boy Scout program. They're starting with Cubs, because that 4th through 8th grade, that's where there's a problem. That's where the girls step back when the boys step up. It's a serious issue.
And one
Good
of the
point.
interesting things is that one of the criticisms of having girls integrated into a Boy Scout troop, and we're talking mainly at the high school level, is that they feel like the girls will take over because
Right.
of the leadership.
Because they develop faster.
Right. But on the other
Right.
hand, I've talked to a couple people who said, in high schools, they're working it out. They work, when I went to high school back in the, Middle Ages, girls could be the secretary, but the boys were always the president of the class and all that kind of stuff. And then, just to make my point completely weak, I transferred to Girls High, Philadelphia High School for Girls. And it was pretty wonderful to have all of the leadership be the girls. But I also think that between 1970 and so I just dated myself. Between 1970 and 2018, there's been a lot more crossover between what we allow boys to do to define themselves and what we allow girls to do to define themselves. And I'm almost more worried about what the boys are allowed to do and the constraints that are on boys. But that's a whole nother global town hall.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that the Boy Scout program, being one of the few things left that was all boys, is so precious.
No, there are a lot of folks who agree
Right.
with you, and we won't really know for a couple of years whether or not it changes the total complexion of how
Right.
Boy Scouting works.
I'll be very curious to see how many all-girl troops there are. There will be in a couple of years.
It'll be interesting because I think what I'm hearing here is it's more a matter of perception than reality, right? Because we've got
We don't have the reality.
right, we've got Girl Scout troops that are obviously outdoor oriented,
Right.
But a lot of the people that I think are arguing either for or against are saying, well, the Girl Scouts are this and the Boy Scouts are that. And it's a matter of perception because I actually didn't know that the Girl Scouts had an excellent outdoor program. All I know, honestly, because I don't have any daughters, is cookies and museum tours
Guys are
and
massacring
things like
us with the
that.
cookies too.
You know, so I'm arguing from a point of ignorance. What do I know?
Yeah. Well, there are some very broad offerings that people don't know about in both programs. You know, a lot of people don't know about STEM or STEM Scouts or anything like that. A lot of people don't realize that the Boy Scouts are also studying citizenship, and the Girl Scouts are studying cross training and game visionary and novelist and adventure camper and behind the ballot. We're not, Boy Scouts aren't doing anything about voting per se, unless you take citizenship and the Nation Merit Badge. And I spend so
Right.
much time on the Constitution, they never get around to voting. But there's some good stuff going on in both programs. It's just that people don't know.
Right.
But now they get some choices.
We're carrying along tonight, and that's great. Laurel, thank you so much for calling. I want to open up the line just in case another Girl Scout leader wanted to call. Her name was Amy, and if she's still on, she might want to call. But I wanted to thank you for
Yes.
your perspective, and it was absolutely great hearing from you.
It was a very nice exchange. Thank you indeed.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. All right, so we will open up the line again. Amy, if you are still on, I realize it's past 8:30, which is our normal time for going off the air, but we're staying on longer because this is an awesome subject.
Yeah.
Feel free to give us a call at 610-924-INFO. That's 610-924-4636.
Very cool.
So I didn't even know, Ann, about those other merit badges, and I deal a lot with ham radio people because I
yeah.
teach the radio badge and I'm affiliated and I have a license and all that. And the people I deal with the ham radio say the Girl Scouts have got a better ham radio or radio program than the Boy Scouts do, and that sort of floored me. Being the macho guy that I am.
Here's another thing that really struck me, and that was when we were at the 2017 Jamboree and the 2013, was it? When was the last two Jamborees?
17 and 13.
Thank you. I trekked up to the area where the International Scouts were. And the International Scouts were all housed in one particular subcamp because it had a better ratio of male to female toilets. Those scouts were interacting with each other, and they would be in the same troop. They were interacting with each other in such a terrific air of camaraderie, sort of like that crew that I went to Philmont with. They they were great together. They were teasing each other. They were supporting each other, and it just looked like real life, you know. And it was nice. I will say that I heard that when somebody tried to sneak into the campsite and take some inappropriate pictures, that the boys in the International Scouts. It's a good thing they got those kids out of there, because those boys would have torn them limb from limb for doing anything to threaten the girls in their troop.
Right.
So it was looked like a pretty healthy relationship to me. So that was encouraging.
And on that note, in December we were doing a lumberjack games with a scout outreach troop from Kennett Square, and one of the leaders, I was talking to him, and we were talking about scouting and he grew up in Mexico City proper.
Okay.
And he was talking about his experience growing up, and I was talking about my experience in the Scout growing up. And I don't know, for some reason, he thought I was going somewhere about girls in the Scouts.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "I know where you're going with that." And I said, "You do?" I had no idea. As usual, I had no idea where I was going.
Yeah, we know that about you, buddy.
And he said, "Let me tell you this." And then he said, "Girls and boys in the Scouts, we've been doing it in Mexico for years. No problem. It's seamless. It works." And I said, "Well, actually, Raul, that's not where I was going, but tell me more." And then we talked about it, and he said, "It brings the families together." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I mean," and I wasn't even thinking about it, and I thought about our troop. We have a few leaders that they have some younger girls, and they drop their boys off. They're leaders. They don't make the meetings because their girls have other obligations, and then they come back to pick up. They miss camping trips that they really want to be on because they've got other family obligations. I'm just looking at it from that perspective, how beneficial that would be, and it's very egocentric to our troop, but I'm sure that it works for other troops too. And but I don't know. I think we have two leaders that have girls. That's
Right.
really...
The other thing is that when I'm explaining to prospective parents that want to bring their sons to Scouts, I tell them, you got to shop around to the different troops because honestly, some of them are boring. I hate to say it, but some of them are boring. And we've got a fantastic troop. We've got a second troop here in Springfield, which is also great, much smaller than ours, but great as well. Pardon me, that's not my dog. That is actually my phone that's barking. Hello? Hey, I can't talk now. I'm on television. Okay, bye. That was my mother. That's why I had to answer. I wouldn't answer the call. Ooh, quick, turn that off.
Begs the question, why is your mother's ringtone dog barking?
Because
I wasn't going to go
I
there.
can tell you why. I can tell you
That's
why.
why the troop is interesting now.
It's because when I'm on the subway, everybody's phone goes off. You know, or ding-a-ding-a-ding. And I was forever grabbing for my phone, thinking that it was the one that was ringing. It didn't matter what the tone
You're
was.
digging it deeper, buddy.
And so and
Because
it's not
your
just
mom should have a special ringtone.
she should. And what happens is this is my generic ringtone. If you call me, it barks. If Steve calls me, it barks.
So now you need to stop.
If
talking,
Randy calls me, it's
now
bark.
you're saying that your mother is a generic phone call.
That's because I'll answer it. I only hear a dog barking. I don't hear any of the other rings. I get so much email.
But I would
all
get
day. It
so you would
bleeps,
give me
it
the same
blurps.
attention that you give your mother.
Isn't that a level of respect
I think we
that
better
you
get back
feel
to
you
girls in
deserve?
scouting. Crack a joke or something, because this guy is done.
Oh,
So anyway, so I'm telling these parents, you got to look around. Now we've got two troops in Springfield, so you got two choices there. But beyond that, do you know where to go? All right. Sorry, I'm not answering it this time. All right, I got myself in trouble last time.
Now
So-
everybody's going to call you.
But how do you shop around? I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know where to take my son, and so
Wait, I got my phone right here.
and so it's hard, and if you're even the town next door then becomes inconvenient. So now with the whole Girl Scout thing,
Yeah.
do you have troops to shop around with? Are there enough troops either in the Boy Scout or in the Girl Scouts? Let's say I've got a daughter and she wants to join the Boy Scouts, but there isn't one locally that's going to take her.
Yeah.
Or there's one that's integrated, or there's one that's all girls.
Yeah.
Do we have enough? How do we have enough that we can be sure to be able to accept the
Let's
new
go back
recruits?
to the membership issue, okay? So membership in the Boy Scouts are down. I don't know what the numbers are in Girl Scouting, but now with there being so many other opportunities, I mean, I was a Girl Scout in part because I wasn't allowed to play baseball, because girls know baseball. And so when you've got people who are looking for things for their kids to do, it's not just scouting. So first of all, how do we get people to shop around about various things that are available for their kids? Police Athletic League, youth soccer, robotics.
You
And,
just
and
called me, didn't you?
No, that was not me. I called you the one before that.
you're just a bad person. I like you. But when we talk about shopping around, it's not just shopping around for one troop or the other. The other thing is we've had parents come up to us and say, do you have a Girl Scout troop at your location? Because there's not one that close
Right.
to where we are in central Germantown. And so, parents are looking for something for their kids. I don't know if they know how to be informed shoppers. Maybe that's something that the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts should collaborate on, is how to
Right.
present who you are, what you do, and what your focus is.
And if you don't get at least 4 of those girls coming in,
Yeah.
the Boy Scouts aren't able to form another troop, are they?
Right.
So it's not like you can just say to anybody, "Come on in, we'll include you
Yeah.
with the boys."
Yeah.
It's trickier.
It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. But I think it can work if there's a proper perception. I think you're absolutely right. You're talking about people talking, acting from perception rather than facts. It's hard to get the facts, so let's improve the perception.
Well, like anything in life, it evolves. If
Yeah.
you look at Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts 50 years ago,
Yeah.
it's nothing like it is today.
Yeah.
Completely different. They weren't boy-led troops. The leaders led the troops.
Oh,
They-
yeah.
They were
Absolutely.
strict. They were disciplined.
Yeah.
And
They were
did-
almost military.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was a
Well, it had sergeants in the military.
Yeah.
But back 50 years ago, there were only, if you were lucky, 3 adults leading a troop, maybe 2.
Yeah, well, when I was in Scouts, we had one father who was the Scoutmaster, and then we had 2. We called them uncles. I don't know if it was common, but it was Uncle Bill and Uncle Steve, and they were. Yeah, I know. But they were in their 70s. They were. This was in the 70s, and they were in their 70s. It was uncommon back in those days for people in their 70s to be as active. In fact, Uncle Steve took me horseback riding with a bunch of other kids, and we got horseback riding merit badge.
Oh, cool.
And he was riding, and he was probably 72 or 73, which, I mean, even in today's day and age, that's pretty risky.
Yep.
But that was in the 70s, and he was an accomplished rider. I mean, he taught us. So anyway, it's evolved,
Yeah.
and it will evolve. It'll continue to evolve. That's life. Nothing stands still. And stagnant.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm projecting our first female Eagle Scout in the year 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
It's now 18,
How-
so that's in 3 years.
Yeah.
How are we going to get an Eagle Scout in 3 years? It takes us 7 years to get a boy.
girls are more advanced.
Girls
They're
are
more mature.
motivated.
Yes.
Actually, you could have your first female Boy Scout troop in February of 2019.
And they could be transferring over.
Your credits
as-
transfer like a university?
Oh,
No,
don't you
no.
wish, right?
No, if
No reciprocity.
if an older girl joins Cub Scouts, joins the Weeblo Scouts, and earns her Arrow of Light, they can then transition to a all Girl Scout troop in
An
February.
all-girl
All-girl
Boy Scout
Boy Scout
troop.
All- correct. I'm
An all-girl Boy Scout troop.
Yeah.
Hey, let's
in,
go with
uh,
oxymorons.
February of
today.
2019, and February of 2019 to the end of 2021 is almost 3 years. 2 years, 11 months. I think it's possible. These girls are going to be so motivated when they first join. They're going to fly through the first 3 ranks.
Well, not to mention the fact that if you were to start a girls' Boy Scout troop, if you were going to start that troop, girls who are already 15 or 16, or 14, let's say 14, could transfer in and get busy working on it. Because my 11 and 12-year-olds are not working on Eagle Scout. I'm just here to tell you.
Right.
So you better start thinking, Steve, how you're going to run Merit Badge College.
Yeah.
How's that going? Is it going to be co-ed Merit Badge College?
Might as well be.
That
Yeah,
sounds right to me
Absolutely.
because it's
Absolutely.
just.
Go ahead.
Okay, it could be
But
1,000 kids.
yeah, exactly. With 700 kids this last time, imagine.
Yeah, I know.
We'll need to
I
take
had a
over
dad-
Cardinal Harris.
So do you think because you mentioned at the very beginning of this that early on the Boy Scouts lost a lot of boys?
Boys,
Do you think
yes.
that same thing is going to happen, or do you think we're more evolved?
No, I think because we're not completely co-ed, because we're going to have separate Boy Scout troops and separate Girl Scout troops, I don't think we're going to see the large loss. I
Gotta
think
have to come up with a
that
better
that
phrase,
is the
though.
reason why we're going to have separate, because they were so concerned with the losses that were experienced in other countries.
We're going to have to come up with some terminology.
That
Because you can't say a girl
Yes.
scout troop without it sounding like a Girl Scout troop. And then the other question that's been batted around is it still going to be the Boy Scouts of America, or are they just going to start calling themselves the BSA? And, people were like, oh, well, cheapening the brand and stuff like that. Everyone calls the Y the Y. They don't call it the YMCA most of the time.
Or the YWCA?
Or the YWCA.
Right.
So it's the Y. And so, the BSA could be its own brand.
That's
and,
right.
And they say, it's still going to say Boy Scouts of America across the pocket, stuff like that. Well, the Venturers have been wearing that forest green uniform with Boy Scouts of America across the pocket, and so is the Sea Scouts and whatnot. The
that's
kind of
different,
girl,
though.
see, the kind of girl that I would have loved to have been in the Boy Scouts, and I wouldn't have thought twice about having BOY on my uniform. I'd have been proud of it. I'd have been like, I'm in with the guys, but I'm weird.
I think we're going to see a name change. I think
you
the
have
BSA will be the brand, but I think it might be something like Scouting or US
Basic
Scouting.
Scouts of America?
Basic Scouts.
Yeah, I think
All right,
we'll
call
see.
in with your ideas.
That's right. 610-924 info.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
can
I
see
just
the
can't-
uniforms changing a little bit. Instead of neckerchiefs, maybe we'll all be wearing Hardy gloves.
Hardy gloves.
Hardy gloves.
Got it.
Andy Hardy. His last name was Hardy.
Oh, you know what?
He's
Never
got his
mind.
own brand of gloves.
I'm just gonna skip that.
Yeah, skip
They,
it.
they
Good
have
idea.
they
Don't
have
encourage.
I'll
addressed
explain to you.
the uniform at the
Oh,
Cub
yeah.
Scout level.
They've done what?
They have addressed the uniform at the Cub Scout level.
Okay, what'd they do?
Young ladies have, I don't know, what do you call it, a
The
sport?
blouse. Oh,
A skort?
a skort.
Okay. Yeah.
A skort.
Shorts and skort.
Yeah.
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 Just so
And-
they can hang upside down.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So, but what does it say on the pocket?
Boy Scouts of America.
But you see, it says
Scouts of
Cub
America.
Scouts of America.
Scouts of
See? Cubs.
Yeah,
Which is different.
That's true. I still think it says Boy Scouts of America. I've never seen something that says Cub Scouts.
And Venturers is different. It's not labeling a gender
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
your pocket.
Yeah.
Now, I understand your perspective.
Well, yeah, but I'm crazy.
It just seems to me, how can you say, I mean, especially with all this nonsense about gender bathrooms and all that, people are just crazy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make sense to have some other non-gender specific,
Sure. I mean,
just scouting?
Scouts Canada, Scouts UK, Scouting.
American Scouts.
What's the difference between Scouts of America and Boy Scouts of America?
Well,
I mean,
it would be running over the Girl Scout brand.
I think it has something to do with the national charter, too, that Congress granted to the Boy Scouts of America.
Oh well.
Yeah, so it's
Well,
a
we
name
can't solve
change.
that
You
problem.
get a bunch of lawyers, and they do their lawyer
The,
thing.
the American
And-
Sporty Scouts.
Sporty Scouts.
The Hardy Scouts of America.
Wait for it. It's a joke grenade. It'll go off in a second.
Oh, got it.
All right.
Yeah, I like you. Yeah.
On that note,
Yeah.
are we done?
I think,
I think we-
are.
I think we are.
I think we've
So, thank you, Randy, for getting me in trouble with the phone call and making my
Ah.
phone bark and all that kind of stuff.
May even have gotten you in trouble with the FCC.
and your mother.
I'll call her out.
Yeah, what's your mom's phone number?
And Ann and Steve, thank you very much. Thank
fun.
you
Pleasure.
for our hundreds of viewers and callers out there.
Yes.
Very pleased.
At least dozens. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the Global Troop Town Hall, thank you all. Have a good night.
Signing off.
Bye.
Good evening.